A very good morning, people. Let us start with our session for the day. I will start sharing you in just a moment. Okay. Uh, till yesterday, in fact, was a revision of all this. Okay, we have been speaking about the various types of winds on the surface. Um, and of course, yesterday we finished it off with winds aloft. If you now analyze all the things that have happened around us, okay, you'll see that we started with the circulation of the atmosphere. We came to the types of winds, surface winds. We further divided these surface winds into global winds. That's those which play out all throughout the year. Then we spoke about seasonal winds, which change their direction as per the summer and the winter. And then we spoke about the local winds, which basically are a direct outfall of the variation in temperature on a daily scale in a local area. Uh, that's the temperature differences between the, so to say, the land and the water. Then, of course, the slopes of the hill and the base of the valley, and so on and so forth. As far as contrasting land and water aspects are concerned, you could classify them as seasonal winds also, and in fact, for quite some time, the monsoon winds, okay, which are a category of seasonal winds, were in fact classified as land and water breezes, basically because of the fact that during summer the land became hotter and thus the low pressure, and that is why the winds from the oceans, that's the Indian Ocean, the Arabian Sea, and the Bay of Bengal, they came onto the land as such. And during winter, exactly opposite things happened, that the land went cooler, and it sent out, because of the high pressure, it sent out winds. And it was only later that it was realized that there are many other factors which lead to the formation of the monsoons. And then the other day I was speaking about the Govarikar model, which has around 16 different parameters. And we don't have it in our syllabus, but that's an interesting aspect to learn about the monsoon and the studies of the monsoon as such. Then we spoke about a theoretical concept, okay, wherein because of the Coriolis force, it so happens that winds, instead of cutting through the isobars, that's the pressure gradient force, in fact start blowing parallel to the isobars. And when these isobars are straight, we call them as gradient winds. Geostrophic winds. Sorry. We call them as geostrophic winds. And when the movement was along a circular path, then the two more forces came into being. That's the centripetal and the centrifugal force. They balanced out each other, and as a consequence, now the pressure gradient force and the Coriolis force, they acted against each other, leading the winds to flow angular path, and these were called as gradient winds. And on those lines, we came to what are called as jet streams. We saw the history of the jet streams, the study of the jet streams, the type of the jet streams. By the way, the clip that Preetham has posted yesterday, it speaks in detail about. I did take some part of it, but those who are interested in the details of the jet streams as such, you could very well visit the clip that Preetham has posted yesterday. Of course, it's a long clip, but as I said, what you can do is speed up the speed of this, go into settings, and instead of normal, play it at 1.25. If you are comfortable, you can play it at 1.5 also. You tend to get an idea of what is happening around as far as the jet streams are concerned. What are the different types of jet streams, and where all are they placed as such. That's all about winds. But then we have been missing on one major aspect that winds also cause, and that's precipitation. And to speak about the precipitation, we need to speak about a few more things from today onwards, and that's moisture. Moisture is known to be in the form of water vapor in the air. As such, we are obviously going to go into the details of all these things. As moisture, I would say, is something that we would be studying separately. At the same time, I would also say that trying to pull it out as a separate topic in the while learning it would confuse us. That's why at times again we will have to go back and visit to the points in the syllabus wherein moisture was an important aspect. If you go all the way back as such, you'll see that when we spoke about the composition of the atmosphere, we said that water vapor forms an important part of the whole composition of the atmosphere as such. Okay, so right from there, you'll see that temperature, as a matter of fact, is something on which the amount of moisture in the air is dependent on. Okay, so temperature and moisture, or temperature and water. I would not purposely call it as water, basically because for major part of our our syllabus, that's in climatology, it has to be learnt in the form of vapor, that's water vapor, and that's why I will not refer to it as water. Actually, it's a gaseous form of water. And then, though we say that temperature and water vapor are related, okay, you see that another thing that comes into picture is the pressure. So at no point of time we can separate these out. Okay, remember that it's for our own convenience that what we do is that we pull it out, we study it properly. Okay, having studied it, we then start realizing the connections that that particular thing happens to have with different topics in your syllabus. After we have studied, we place it back. That is how we should be studying not only climatology, every other aspect as such. Okay, remember, it's a whole subject. For our purpose, we have divided into syllabus, subpoints of the syllabus, and so on and so forth. So at a moment of time, for study purpose, at a particular point of time, what we do is we draw out that particular thing, we examine the details of that. While examining the details, we tend to know the connections that that particular thing has with the various other aspects in your syllabus as such. And then after having studied, we leave it back into its own motion as such. So the same thing would happen with water also, because water is a um, very important factor which controls so many things. Of course, all that we have done eventually control, but water is something which is directly related. Say, for example, if you don't have if say, as far as temperature is concerned, variations in temperature, you could manage with variations of temperature, in the sense that if you are feeling very hot, what you do is you switch on the air conditioner and you sit in it. If you are feeling very cold, you switch on a, a heater, room heater, and then you are comfortable with it. However, as far as the resultant pressure is concerned, you'll see that we are not able to manage, or possibly we could do as far as managing pressure is concerned. But as far as water is concerned, you'll see that we have to have a certain amount of water, which is a biological need, okay, for every day. Of course, this is not related to the the point that we are going to discuss today, but then the importance of water and the characteristics that water follows, in the sense that I don't know whether I've spoken this to you all, but I believe I may have spoken this to you all, that water is the only substance which naturally occurs in all the three forms. That's solid, liquid, and gas as such. And if you go into the details of it, you'll see that when we speak about water, this is how actually a water molecule looks. Okay, the central one is the oxygen one, and of course then you're going to have these hydrogen bonds which are on the oxygen atom as such. Okay, and that's what makes the two H atoms and one oxygen atoms, that makes H2O. And you'll see that this is how normally the bonds, they attach to each other. However, you'll see that because water is a liquid, okay, you'll see that they are attached. They are not absolutely independent of each other, as to how you would find it in a gaseous format. But you'll see that it will not have a solid structure like this also. Okay, you'll see that these two are attached, then these two are attached, these three are attached, this two is attached here, this single one here. Okay, this is single one here. So you'll see that it doesn't follow a particular pattern, and that's why it's called as a liquid. It flows in its own direction as such. Before we come into these aspects as such, something very basic as far as the geographical aspect that we need to do is the hydrological cycle. It's very important to understand the hydrological cycle from the climatic point of view. Okay, you'll see that as far as evaporation is concerned, okay, ज्याला आपण बाष्पीभवन मराठीमध्ये म्हणतो. Okay, you'll see that there is an evaporation of a total amount of 320,000 kilometers cube. Okay, so that is the amount of evaporation that takes place every year. Okay, from the surfaces of the oceans, oceans particularly as such. Okay, you'll see that of this, okay, you'll see that 284,000. आता हे फक्त it's basically to give you a scale. एवढं काय आपण लगेच त्याच्यामध्ये हे करायची गरज नाही. But what, see how I would read it, okay, if I'm, because this is basically unimaginable for me. 320,000 cubic kilometers, and of which 284 cubic kilometers it rains back. Precipitation is basically rains. It rains back on the surfaces of the waters or the oceans itself. So that leaves what an amount of it should be somewhere around 16 and 20, 46,000 cubic kilometers. Okay, cubic kilometers, which is a lacuna in between these. Well, as far as land is concerned, okay, let us speak about land. Okay, 60,000 cubic kilometers. 60,000 cubic kilometers is the amount of water that evaporates from various surfaces. Now, these surfaces could include a river, okay, like the Amazon, like the Ganga, like the Narmada, and so on and so forth. A significant amount of it would evaporate from lakes. Okay, you'll see that the Koleru Lake or the Chilka Lake, okay, or even the Dal Lake as such. Okay, you'll have a significant amount of it is going to flow into the atmosphere as far as the whole process is concerned. And then to add to this, we always have to speak about the transpiration that takes place. Okay, and at times they join these together to call as evapotranspiration. You see that every organism has to transpire to maintain the temperature. All those organisms which are called as cold-blooded animals. Cold-blooded animals basically. I'm a bit confused between warm-blooded and cold-blooded as such. Okay, I think reptiles are warm-blooded, so we are we are cold-blooded, warm-blooded, and reptiles are cold-blooded. As warm-blooded is basically human beings who maintain their own body temperature. Okay, you'll see that whatever the temperature around us, okay, you'll see that we maintain our body temperature, and this body temperature is maintained through our blood systems as such. आणि त्याच्या डिटेल मध्ये जायचं तर you have hemoglobin and that, and it's basically the blood which say exchanges oxygen and carbon dioxide and so on and so forth in the lungs. And in fact, nowadays you'll see that in fact it has become a compulsion that wherever you go, you have those thermal guns, and they check the body temperature, which is around 36.1 is what it is expected to be. Now, when the temperatures around you tend to be higher, okay, you will feel it hot, and when the temperature around you are lower than your body temperature, then you feel cold as such. Now, in this process, what happens is every organism, as I said, has to transpire. It has to send out some. Of course, that's not a huge amount, and that's why it's not seen here. But this is involved in those 60,000 square cubic kilometers also. Besides that, a very large amount of the water vapor is transpired through or evapotranspired through plants of various series, in the sense larger plants, grass, and everything that is green and that photosynthesizes also transpires a lot of water, because water is a process. Water is a substance which is required in this whole process as such. Let me tell you that an average banyan tree, average वडाचं झाड जे असतं साधं एकदम मोठं नाही आणि एकदम छोटं सुद्धा नाही, average banyan tree has to transpire around 100 liters of water every day. Okay, you'll see that again. And as far as coming to animals is concerned, the size of the animals also is going to be dependent on that. So you'll see that an elephant is going to transpire more amount of water as compared to a buffalo, and a buffalo is going to transpire more amount of water as compared to a human being, and so on and so forth. But the basic fact remains that all organisms give out water in the form of water vapor as such. Now, it so happens that this 60,000, and you'll see that the balance of this, okay, is going to transpire into what? किती होते हैं 36. Okay, so this 60 and this 36, okay, you'll see that eventually leads to the precipitation on land. Okay, remember, this is precipitation on water, this is precipitation of land. This is 60 plus 36, that comes to a precipitation of around 96,000 cubic kilometers. Once you have understood what the scale is, you can just say की हे 320 आहेत, हे 284 युनिट आहेत, हे 60 आहेत, आणि this is हे 96 आहे. Okay, so while this precipitation is going to take place here, it's going to accumulate at various places. Okay, of this, you'll see that a significant amount of it is going to infiltrate and gather in various forms. Of course, groundwater is one of the major forms. Then, in the form of inland lakes is another form in which all of this precipitation is going to accumulate, and leaving a significant amount, around 36,000 cubic kilometers is flows back into the form of runoff as such. So interestingly, you will see that the amount of water that is evaporated, tends on an average to come back into this. Okay, now this could be hypothetical, but the fact that now why should we believe that this is the हे काल्पनिक नहीं है, हे hypothetical नहीं है? Okay, if we say that 320, okay, थोडंसं गणित पाहूयात आपण. 320 minus 284 is going to be 36. Okay, and eventually this is the 36,000 cubic kilometers which is running off. The fact that we can believe that the cycle actually runs in a cyclic form, that means the amount of water is let out comes back into the oceans as such. Had it been the other way, in the sense that had 36 च्या ऐवजी, let us say, only 30,000 cubic kilometers of water is returning back, what should have been the impact in that particular case? Can anybody guess? What should have been the impact? Instead of 36,000, let me ask you that this value should have been only 30. What could have been? What is the interpretation to this? That instead of 36, I rub this 36 and I'm going to have 30 cubic kilometers only. What geographical impact or what climatic impact would that be? तुम्हाला सांगता येत नसेल तर you have not understood the hydrological cycle in that case. then मी आतापर्यंत जे सांगितलेलं आहे, याच्या आधी जी हायड्रोलॉजिकल सायकल केलेली आहे, ते तुम्हाला कळलेलं नाहीये. ते लक्षात घ्या. 320 युनिट बाष्पीभवन होते, 320 युनिटचं बाष्पीभवन होतंय. त्याच्यातलं सांद्रीभवन होऊन प्रेसिपिटेशन, पाऊस जो आहे हा 284चा पडतोय. म्हणजे राहिलं किती? तर 36 राहिले, बरोबर. हे 36 पुढे गेलेले आहेत, पण इथे पाऊस पडतोय 96. म्हणजे काय? तर 96 मधनं 36 गेले, राहिले 60. म्हणजे हे 60 जे आहेत हे इकडनं चाललेले आहेत त्याला. ओके, आणि इव्हेंच्युअली आपण म्हणतोय की हा जो 36चा फरक आहे, हा 36 पुन्हा इकडे येऊन समुद्राला मिळतोय. व्हॉट डज दॅट मीन? की या 36च्या बाकी सगळे आकडे सारखे ठेवले आपण, आणि 36च्या ऐवजी 30च म्हटलं, किंवा मी म्हणेन 36च्या ऐवजी 40 म्हटलं. इन आयदर केसेस व्हॉट वुड बी the geographical interpretation? Okay, if I reduce this to 30 or I increase this to 40, what should be the geographical impact? Yeah, anyone? I'm waiting for your response.
Sir, is it infiltration?
Is it? What?
Infiltration, sir.
How would you explain it geographically?
Sir, runoff itself is the surplus water, which is like when the soil becomes saturated after infiltration.
No, 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 no. Don't go into the details. I don't want words which are not there in this diagram. Put this diagram in front of you, and I want you to explain this 36, how it matches to this, and why it matches. If it does not match, what will be the output? In simple words, we don't have to go into the details. This is a very common thing, and this can be answered. Let me tell you frankly that this can be answered in a very simple way. Don't go into the
सर लैंड
infiltration and
सरफेस का
other.
जो टाइप है वो इसको इन्फ्लुएंस करेगा.
नहीं
लाइक
नहीं
अगर
नहीं 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 नहीं, सो वो टाइप वगैरह सब छोड़ो. मैं क्या पूछ रहा हूँ कि ये 320 है, ये 284 है, डिफरेंस 36 है. इसमें ये 60 ऐड होता है, इसकी वजह से 96 का बारिश होता है. 96 के बारिश में से हाउएवर रन ऑफ फिर से 36 हो जाता है, विच इज इक्विवेलेंट टू द डिफरेंस बिटवीन दीज टू. इसका इंटरप्रिटेशन आपने मुझे देना है. जब मैं आपको, अगर आप आप लोग, इनफैक्ट आई एम नॉट ओनली स्पीकिंग टू प्रीतम, आई एम स्पीकिंग टू एव्हरीवन. याचं उत्तर इतकं सोपं आहे की हे तुमच्या डोक्यात सुद्धा आलं असेल, पण तुम्ही धाडस करत नसाल, किंवा तुम्ही म्हणाल की अरे हे काय एवढं सिंपल होतं, आपल्याला हे ते जॉग्राफिकली आउटपुट देता नाही आला. या, सो वन्स अगेन आई आस्क माय क्वेश्चन. सो इफ दिस वैल्यू इज रिड्यूस्ड टू 30 or it is increased to 40, what should happen?
सर जर का ती तिथं 36 च्या जागी 40 झाली तर पाण्याची पातळी वाढेल समुद्रामध्ये, आणि जर कमी झाली तर
समुद्रामध्ये पातळी वाढेल. ओके ओके.
आणि त्यामुळे ती सायकल मध्ये इम्पॅक्ट पडेल. पुढच्या वेळेस जेव्हा पाऊस पडेल तेव्हा इव्हॅपोरेशन जास्त होईल, कारण पाण्याची पातळी वाढेल असेल. आणि जर का ते कमी झालं तर समुद्राची पातळी कमी कमी होत जाईल नेहमीनुसार.
Yes, yes, that's a very fantastic answer, but then again that's a very futuristic answer. मी तुम्हाला जे सोपं सांगतोय ना, की बेसिकली काय आहे की आपण ह्याला हायड्रोलॉजिकल सायकल म्हणतोय. सायकल म्हणजे काय, तर जिथनं सुरू होतं तिथे परत यायचंय. सो वेर इट स्टार्ट्स, की all the deficit that this evaporation as a process has incurred, what is the deficit? 36. It has to come back. As I said, if it is increased to 40, आता मला तुमची नावं दिसत नाहीत, पण ज्यांनी कोणी उत्तर दिलं, मला वाटतं तुषार असेल किंवा अजून कोणी असेल, तर इफ इट इन्क्रीजेस टू 40, ऑब्विसली व्हॉट इज हॅपनिंग इज की ह्याचा डिफरन्स जो आहे हा 36च आहे. ओके, पण दिस इज इन्क्रीजिंग टू 40 म्हणजे काय, तर ह्याच्यातनं हे वजा करावं लागेल तुम्हाला. ह्या 60 मधनं हे 4 म्हणजे हे 56च राहतील. इव्हेंच्युअली हे 56 राहतील, कारण हे 4 वाढीव जे आहेत हे 36 मध्ये जॉईन होऊन they have met the ocean as such. Eventually what is going to happen is land does not create water. Let me tell you, land does not create water. So eventually if this keeps on happening, हे होणार नाही. Okay, but if this keeps on happening, आता ह्यांनी जे सांगितलंय ते तर अगदीच बरोबर आहे, पण याची जॉग्राफी पाहता, ओके, दिस विल लीड टू क्लायमेट चेंज, दिस विल लीड टू राईज इन सी लेवल. येस, परफेक्टली राईट. पुढच्या वर्षी याचं व्हॅल्यू ही जास्त होईल, की ही 4 ऍड केलेत म्हटल्यावर, इफ ऑल अदर फॅक्टर्स आर गोइंग टू बी द सेम, you'll see that this could be 324. Okay, there could be some of it is going, this could be 386 आणि this could be 98. हे सगळं हायपोथेटिकल बोलतोय आपण, पण किती लक्षात येते पहा तुमच्या. सो इव्हेंच्युअली पुन्हा बेसला आलो आपण, तर हे सोर्स एवढाच राहिला आणि पाणी जास्त वाहत राहिलं, म्हणजे हे मॅच इक्वेट झालं नाही. दिस मायनस दिस, हे शुड नॉट, इफ इट इज नॉट इक्वल टू दिस, ऑब्विसली जमिनीवरचं पाणी काय आहे ते कमी होणार आहे. दिस इज द जॉग्राफिकल आउटपुट ऑफ इट. जमिनीवरचं एकूण पाणी म्हणजे तुमचं ग्राउंड वॉटर असेल किंवा नद्यांचं पाणी असेल किंवा तळ्यांमधलं पाणी असेल, दिस इज गोइंग टू बी फॉलिंग शॉर्ट. On the other hand, as I said, that if we reduce this to 30, okay, the difference is 36, but this is reduced to 30. Obviously, आता ह्यांनी सांगितलं त्याच्या ऑपोजिट होणार आहे. ग्रॅज्युअली द सी लेवल इज गोइंग टू फॉल डाऊन, आणि हे जे वाढीव पाणी जमिनीने शोषून घेतलेलं आहे किंवा राखून ठेवलेलं आहे, हे कुठल्या कुठल्या ठिकाणी राहील. इकडची तळी आहेत ती मोठी होतील, और यू कुड से दॅट द आईस कव्हर विल इन्क्रीज, और द फ्लो ऑफ द वॉटर may increase, the groundwater may increase. This Pritam was referring to this as well. Okay, so it has to be 36. And it has to match to this particular difference if we are to call it as a cycle. If it does not happen that way, then we are looking at a serious issue, which would eventually, आता हे जो सांगत होता की which would eventually lead to, either ways it would lead to something which we could call as climate change as such. So in the larger scenario, in the smaller scenario, in the perfect scenario, in the cyclic scenario, this is how we should be looking at this. I purposely went into this into more details basically because this is the only part that we are supposed to be going into when we are referring to climatology. If you are looking into geomorphology, then I speak about infiltrations, I speak about base flow, and I speak about groundwater levels, I speak about water table, and so on and so forth. Because we were speaking on a very large volume. Okay, we're speaking on a macro scale. We're not speaking on a large scale, we're speaking on a macro scale. अख्ख्या जगाचं म्हणतो आपण. In that case, you'll see that all this tends and would definitely tend to happen. And the very fact that 36,000 kilometers has to flow back into the oceans, or हे सगळं गणित जे आहे, all these equations will go in a turmoil, and we would have unseen weather conditions. In fact, some of these are already happening, in the sense that if we believe that this is a cycle, okay, that means the amount of rain is obviously going to fall, is going to be the same. And having said that, you'll see that at some locations we say that you don't have that much amount of rainfall. It is not that. You have that much amount of rainfall, but the number of rainy days in many places have gone down. Now, what does this mean? That the rainy days have gone down, but the total amount of rainfall is the same. That means whatever rain is falling in more intensity now. When it is falling in more intensity, that means there are more cyclonic depressions and so on and so forth. Okay, and that is going to cause many natural hazards also, and disasters also as such. So all this needs to be looked from that point of view. Okay, coming to the chemistry of water, let us see what it says. Okay, hydrogen bonding in water. Water molecules are joined together by hydrogen bonds and loosely bond loosely bond a hydrogen atom on one water molecule with an oxygen atom at another. Okay, this is how the bonding takes place. Okay, I'll zoom out and so that you can have a reference. Illustration of a crystalline structure of ice. See, this is the solid part. This is the solid part. This is the liquid part. And that's why in a solid, they are joined together. Now, one more thing. Okay, I'll ask you a question. For simplicity, the three-dimensional nature of the ice has not been illustrated. Third, water in its liquid state consists of clusters of water molecules joined together by hydrogen bonds. In liquid water, hydrogen bonds continually break apart and are replaced by new ones, which gives liquid water a fluid nature. Now, let me ask you one more question. We are going to go to the answer of that. You see two structures in front of you. Okay, the one here and the one here. What are the differences that you see in front of you? What are the differences within that? Within that, what are the differences that you see in front of you? I've told you some differences. You can repeat them, and anything else that you can observe as the difference between both of them. Please let me know. What is the difference between these two?
वरच्या डायग्राम मध्ये बॉन्ड्स कनेक्टेड आहेत सगळे एकमेकांना atoms ला, आणि खालच्या याच्यामध्ये बॉन्ड्स कनेक्ट नाहीये.
Exactly. So that's one obvious thing that we can see, that the bonds are connected basically because that's an example of an ice, which is a solid. And in the lower diagram, you'll see that some are connected, some are not, some are single, some are double, some are triple, but then they are not connected to each other. And that gives the flow to the water. Anything else that you can observe? याच्यासाठी थोडंसं you'll need to apply a bit of science. हे फ्रँकली स्पीकिंग मलाही माहित नव्हतं. मी हे पीपीटी तयार करत होतो तेव्हा मला हे जाणवलं, आणि याचंच एक पुढचं रिफ्लेक्शन पुढच्या डायग्राम मध्ये आहेच. बट बिफोर दॅट,
hello sir.
yes.
Sir, when water is in the solid state, The molecular bonding in it is quite rigid
Okay, fine, fine.
rather than water. Again, in 0 degrees Celsius, we can't say that it is rigid because it shows a property of anomalous expansion. So in
That's
the
at 4, not at 0. That's at 4 degrees centigrade, not at 0. Okay, okay, go ahead.
so sir, in minus temperatures, I guess the
Mm, mm,
bonding
mm.
between the molecules will be much more.
Okay, I would once again ask you the same question. Observing what you see in front of you. Don't go into much of the science, but observing what is
Sir,
in front of you.
sir,
Can you apply some science? Yes, please. Yes,
सर
कोणतरी हा बोला.
येस सर म्हणजे सायन्समध्ये जे ग्राफाईट आणि डायमंडचं स्ट्रक्चर आहे त्याच्यात
हा हा
डायमंडचं स्ट्रक्चर हे क्रिस्टलाइन राहतं सो
ओके
क्रिस्टल फॉर्म मध्ये आईस असतो त्यामुळं वरचं स्ट्रक्चर आहे ते स्पिंडल म्हणजे क्रिस्टल सारखं दिसतंय सर आणि खालचं फ्लुइड
ओके
असल्यामुळं ते तसं असं माझं
मी तुम्हाला पुन्हा सांगतो स्वतःच कन्फ्युजन करून घेऊ नका. समोर जे दिसतंय पुन्हा मी सांगतो की मी जेव्हा उत्तर देईन तुम्ही म्हणाल सर हे विचारत होतोय मी आपलं उगतच काहीतरी समोर जे दिसतंय त्याच्यातनं फरक आणि त्याच्यातनं बर्फ आणि पाण्यामधला जो मेन आपण संदर्भ पाहतो. एक हिंट देतोय मी आता तुम्हाला. द कनेक्शन दॅट यू सी बिटवीन आईस अँड वॉटर कॅन बी एक्सप्लेन्ड. I've given you 90% of the hint. The connection between ice and water can be explained using the diagram in front of you. Now can you give me your answer?
येस सर. सर जी वरची डायग्राम आहे त्यामध्ये जे ऍटम्स आहेत ते एका सिस्टम मध्ये असे कनेक्ट झालेले आहे. तर खालच्या याच्यामध्ये
Okay.
ते एका सिस्टम मध्ये नाहीये. वरच्या डायग्राम मध्ये ते सिस्टमॅटिकली बॉन्ड झालेले एकमेकांना. त्यामुळे आईसची एक लेअर बनते किंवा ते एक असे जवळ आले असतात. तर वॉटर फ्लो करतं बिकॉज ते ऍटम्स एकमेकाला कनेक्ट नसतात त्याच्यामुळे ते फ्लो करू शकतात.
तू प्रयत्न चांगला करतोयस आणि जास्त सायन्स मध्ये जातोयस. माझं म्हणणं तुम्हाला हेच आहे की जास्त सायन्स मध्ये जाऊ नका. समोर दिसतंय त्याच्यावरनं पाणी आणि बर्फाचा जो एकमेकांशी संदर्भ आहे तो मला
सर
सांगा काय. हा
सर आईस लाइटर दॅन म्हणजे आईस फ्लोट
एक्झॅक्टली
होतं ना येस
एक्झॅक्टली
सर फ्लोट होतो सो क्रिस्टलाइन स्ट्रक्चर असल्यामुळं तो लाइटर होतो आणि खालचा सर पण
उत्तर बरोबर दिलेलं एक्सप्लेनेशन बरोबर नाही.
सर एक्सप्लेनेशन देता येत नाहीये पण एवढं तर समजलंय की त्याच्यामुळं तो लाइटर आहे आणि तो
अरे
फ्लोट होतो.
सिम्पल लॉजिक आहे की वरच्या डायग्राम मध्ये हे मॉलिक्युल्स किती जवळ आहेत रे एकमेकांच्या.
डिस्टन्स
डिस्टन्स
जास्त
जास्त आहे.
यस
डिस्टन्स
स्पेस
जास्त आहे आणि
स्पेस तयार होतो
पाण्यामध्ये
सर
डिस्टन्स कमी आहे.
हा
बरोबर. पाण्यामध्ये डिस्टन्स कमी आहे आणि
पोकळी तयार
बर्फामध्ये
होते सर.
डिस्टन्स कमी आहे. म्हणजे काय तर द व्हॉल्यूम इन्क्रीजेस बट द डेन्सिटी डज नॉट. याच्यामुळे बर्फ हा पाण्यावर तरंगणार आहे. लक्षात येत आहे. ice floats on water basically because given the same size, okay, you'll see that the number of molecules packed in water in ice are much less as compared to the molecules of water packed in a liquid called as water itself. And that is one of the main reasons that when it arranges itself in a crystalline structure, तुमच्यापैकी बऱ्याच लोकांनी आता ते रिपीट केलं की when it arranges itself in a crystalline structure, त्याची जी परिस्थिती आहे because of its all this typical bonding as such, it has to maintain that particular distance in the process of bonding, and as a consequence it leaves a lot of gaps in between, and that's why volume wise it may increase but density wise it does not increase. And that's why if you take a cube of ice and you throw it in water, it is going to float in water as such. Okay, that is what I wanted you all to observe. I hope all of you all have got my point. And now let us move ahead as such. Okay, you'll see that this is again the same thing that I wanted to explain to you all. This is how ice looks in solid. This is how ice looks in liquid. Water looks in liquid. And this is how water vapor is. Okay, so obviously they get more dynamic basically because they have so lot of space to move around as such. As compared to that, liquid is much more packed. But then you'll see that it's not as it's packed basically, but then the same packing is not seen in solid ice, and that's why solid ice is seen to float in water. And you'll see that in the background of this particular diagram as such, you'll see that this is ice and this is water, and we will obviously be required to go into the basics of this particular diagram as well. Okay, while we have seen the hydrological cycle in one way here, okay, I would add something in this here, that in higher latitudes, मला जर तुम्ही permission दिली तर I will change this diagram a bit, in the sense that in higher latitudes precipitation, okay, or in higher altitudes precipitation is going to be in the form of solid, that's going to be in the form of snow. Okay, now when we say snow, that means this is liquid, then this is gas, then it comes down in the form of solid, and then it melts in the form of liquid. So the journey is from liquid to gas to solid and back to liquid as such. Understanding that, let us move into this. What is this changing from solid, liquid to solid, and then or liquid to gas? All this called as. Remember that the natural form of water is liquid. The natural form of water in general condition. Now, when I say natural, I am calling it natural basically because the present temperature of the surface of this planet. आता हे फार interesting आहे, हे फार महत्वाचं आहे. The surface of the temperature, the surface temperature of this particular planet is 18 degrees average, or let us say 16 degrees average. Putting it at an average, you'll see that larger portion of this particular planet is going to be 20 degrees plus. And that is why I am referring to water in its natural condition in the present conditions. If we were alive in an ice age, okay, get this point. If we were alive in an ice age, temperatures would have been very, very low. Let us assume that temperatures would have been in minus for major part of this particular planet. And we were studying the same thing at that particular point of time in some college and some place, or in an online format as such. Then I would have said that the natural form of water is solid. So हे लक्षात ठेवणं अतिशय गरजेचं आहे की सद्यस्थितीला average temperature of the earth is so and so, which keeps majority of this particular liquid in a liquid format. And that is why I am claiming that the present natural state of water is liquid. Had it been the other way, it could have been absolutely different. In the sense, now, एक example मी आता दिलं की had we been in an ice age. Now remember that when we spoke about the formative ages of the earth, okay, we had a lot of carbon dioxide, we had a lot of sulfur dioxide, and all of this was vaporizing the water available. And of course, the water then was lesser, but all this water was continuously kept in a vaporized format. So now we, from a minus degrees average condition, if we move to the other extreme, this extreme, wherein the average temperature of the earth would have been 101 degrees centigrade. See, the average temperature would have been 101 degrees centigrade. So majority of the water would have evaporated and it would have been in a vaporized format. And had we conducted a class in those conditions, I would have said that the natural condition of water is in a gaseous format. So all this is very relative, and the theory of relativity by Einstein is very, very important या सगळ्या संदर्भामध्ये. Now, when we were speaking about all these things, that's the earlier diagram, this was water, it was being evaporated, it led to water vapor, this water vapor condensed into water, and it came down in the form of a liquid. So this is the part of that cycle. Sometimes it so happens that this evaporation leads to water vapor. This water vapor condenses at very low temperatures, that leads to formation of ice. So you have to now wait for this. Me, the addition केली hydrological cycle, general hydrological cycle मध्ये, the addition is this way, that water is going to evaporate, it's going to condense, it's condensing into ice, and it falls onto the snow. Then you have to wait for that ice to melt and go in the form of runoff. आता या मोठ्या arrows कडे पाहू पण नका तुम्ही. Okay, just look into what I am referring, taking you through to. Now, is it that this shift from one phase to the other phase of matter, that's from liquid to gas and from gas to solid liquid, or from gas directly to solid, and so on and so forth, is it that simple? No, it is not at all simple. All of this is going to require energy. And here is where, again, as I said, that though we may study water separately, and it is necessary to study water separately, at some point of time, we have to bring it to the earlier aspects that we have seen in the form of temperature and pressure. Now we have to relate it to the temperature first. In fact, when I was referring to you into the normal state of water, and then I took you to the ice age, and then I took you to a greenhouse age as such. Okay, I was actually, the theme behind it was drop in water at one, drop in the temperature at one end, and of course rise in the temperature at the other end as such. तर ही सगळी गंमत अशी आहे की it is going to require energy. This energy comes from the earth, from the sun. The intensity of this energy is what we measure in temperature. Does it require energy, this transformation? Yes. Any phase of matter, okay, if you want to change the phase of matter, you will require a lot of energy. Okay, so now let us, before going to these longer arrows as such, we'll come to how much amount of energy is going to be required. If I have to evaporate water, I would require around 600 calories of energy. Now, is this used up? No, it stays with the vapor. And when it condenses back, this 600 calories is released. Now, where do you relate this process? You relate this into a heat budget. If you remember the heat budget diagram, particularly what is given out, the latter part of the heat budget, you'll see that something similar happened. And this is how the earth tries to maintain or regulate its temperature. In fact, water is used as an element which tends to, tries to stabilize temperatures. Of course, life goes on this particular planet, basically because there is a lack in balance as such. In fact, human beings or any form of life, any organism who is breathing because of lungs, why do our lungs function? Our lungs function basically because lungs have become a very important organ in this corona issue. But our lungs function basically because there is an indifference, or there is a difference rather, I would say. What is this difference? This difference keeps on shifting when I am inhaling and when I am exhaling. When I inhale, why do I inhale? I inhale basically because I have a lot of high pressure around me and I have a low pressure inside my lung. So I inhale. But in this process, what happens now is the lungs get high pressurized and around I have low pressure. So I have to exhale. आता तुम्ही विचार करा की आतलं प्रेशर आणि बाहेरचं प्रेशर सेम झाल्यावर काय होईल? माणसाचं तिरडी बांधायची and he's gone. Okay, so all that is happening around us is basically because of the difference. The moment everything is stabilized, everything will come to a halt. So you'll see that there is a continuous exchange of 600 calories, okay, when you are going to change it from water to vapor, and when vapor gets back, it is going to give out 600 calories as such. So where does these 600 calories come from? These calories are going to be picked up from the atmosphere around, or from the air around as such. And when I'm going to give this back, where am I going to give it? I'm going to give it where it is being condensed as such. So you'll see that you have two levels. Evaporation is taking here and condensation is taking here. Okay, so evaporation is going to take energy from this level, and condensation is going to give energy at this level. So what has the earth done? It has taken the energy from here and it has given it back here. Of course, it is not the earth, it's the mechanism of the earth. Who's doing this? This is water. And the processes of evaporation and condensation are being used by the earth to pick up the extra energy from here and give it out here as such. Okay, हे लेक्चर तुम्हाला परत सिरियसली बघावं लागणार आहे, बिकॉज दीज आर द बेसिक प्रोसेसेस. हे एकदा व्यवस्थित कळलं की you'll see की understanding rest of the things with regards when you add moisture to the atmospheric systems is going to be absolutely easy. मग ती ढगांचा कडकडाट असेल किंवा विजांचा लखलखाट असेल, all of this is related to this particular energy. Okay, it gets transferred. Okay, this energy, okay, म्हणजे आपण ही जे कंडेन्सेशन म्हणतो, at this point this energy released at times gets transformed into sound energy, ज्याला आपण थंडर म्हणतो, sound energy, thunder, or it gets transformed into light energy which is called as lightning, वीज ज्याला आपण म्हणतो. Okay, so that is how energy from the surface is going to be released. Insolation कडनं येते energy surface वर. Okay, ती वर जाईपर्यंत वेळ लागेल, basically because the atmosphere is a bad conductor of heat and electricity. So you'll see that the process of evaporation and condensation are used to transfer all this. Okay, now try to put all of it together आणि हळूहळू तुम्हाला हे सगळे building blocks, understanding climatology is going to be easy. While we keep understanding that, okay, we'll just read what is all written behind under this. Gas or water vapor. When liquid water evaporates, all of the hydrogen bonds are broken and the water molecules move freely. Here you can see that. Okay, they're moving freely. What happens here? When ice melts, some of the bonds are broken and the water molecules become very closely packed. Okay, हे एक लक्षात घ्या की it's very similar to this. Ice is this and water is this. As long as you have ice, the structure keeps these hands from meeting each other. But the moment water is going to melt, you'll see that they get closely packed. इथे closely packed answer जे आहे or explanation is जे आहे, this is the structure of ice. This is water, and that's why water is closely packed, ice is loosely packed, though it is in a structural format, and that is why it is going to float on water. येते लक्षात? Now let us go to this part. What does solid involve here? How much time do we have? Water molecules in the ice are bonded together in a configuration. त्याला एक structure आहे, त्याला एक structure आहे की हळूहळू जसा जसा बर्फ बनायला लागतो, you'll see की it starts forming a solid one by one. त्याला एक configuration आहे. And that leaves a lot of empty spaces in between, and that is why you'll see that ice is less dense as compared to water as such. Now, when you are going to melt ice, you again require, आता हे थोडंसं इथे थोडं कन्फ्युजिंग आहे आणि याच्यासाठी मी तुम्हाला आधीचं उदाहरण दिलं की प्रेझेंट कंडिशन काय आहे. The temperature of the earth, average temperature of the earth is 20 degrees, 18 degrees, जो काही असेल ते, आणि त्याच्यामुळे इथे थोडंसं कन्फ्युजन होण्याची शक्यता आहे. बट रिमेंबर दॅट हे पाण्याचं ऍस्पेक्ट बाजूला ठेवलं and we are saying that this is solid, liquid and gas only. If you want to move from solid to liquid, you will require energy. If you want to move from liquid to gas, you will require energy. If you want to move from gas to solid, you will give out energy. If you want to move from liquid to solid, you will give out energy. So absorption on the way up and release on the way down. But this gets confusing basically because your normal condition is this. Your normal condition is this. And that is why thoda sa confusion hai. But if you understand the conditioning of the earth, then it's going to be absolutely simple for us. Okay, so melting will require this energy is going to be absorbed. Now, what happens when I'm going to melt? I take a cube of ice from the refrigerator and I keep it on the table and I keep watching it. Okay, I keep watching it. What is going to happen? After some time, the ice will melt. An interesting aspect is you try this at your home and tell me the output of it. Okay, you take 10 to 12 cubes of ice, 10 to 12 cubes of ice, put it in water, let the temperature of the water come down, then keep this on a gas and you light it from light the gas. Okay, the general understanding is that immediately the water should start heating, but it does not happen so. Till the point all the ice melts, till the point all the ice melts, the temperature of water will remain at 0 degrees. हे तुम्ही दूध फ्रीज मध्ये ठेवलेलं असेल आणि ते तुम्ही तापायला ठेवलं लगेच आणि तुम्ही बराच वेळ तो गॅस हे करता, चालू ठेवता, तुम्हाला वाटतं आता दूध गरम झालं असेल, पण तुम्ही पाहता की अरे ते सालं दूध गरमच नाही झालं. नुसतं दूध काय, वरण सुद्धा तुम्ही जर याच्यातनं काढून गॅसवर ठेवलं, फ्रीज मधनं काढलं, आदल्या दिवशी रात्री तुम्ही फ्रीजर मध्ये ठेवलं, काढून ठेवलं, इट डज नॉट हीट अप व्हेरी फास्ट. तो भांड तापेल, बाहेरनं भांड तापेल, पण आतलं लिक्विड तापणार नाही. That's basically because of this, that it will maintain its temperature. Now when the ice is melting, okay, when the ice is melting, it requires 80 calories. It requires 80 calories as such. Where do these come from? This comes from the surrounding temperature. Because ice is at 0 degrees, surrounding temperature, right now my surrounding temperature would be around 28, 29 degrees as such. So it is going to pull in energy from that. 80 calories aa gaya, melting will start. Melting will start. Okay, then we come to this. Okay, now water. You'll see that water because this is the natural condition of water, a very small amount of energy is required for ice to move into water. But for water to move into evaporation, given the fact that the natural condition of water is liquid 1, and what was this has now gone into this, and you'll have to liberate it completely. Okay, you don't have to pull it to this, you have to liberate it completely. You are going to require much higher amount of energy, and that is 600 calories. 600 calories. Okay, that's going to be required for evaporation. And when condensation takes place, condensation म्हणजे सांद्रीभवन, याला बाष्पीभवन आणि याला सांद्रीभवन असं म्हटलं जातं. When condensation takes place, those 600 calories are going to be released as such. आणि त्याचमुळे तो गडगडाटाचा पाऊस, तो ती लखलखणारी वीज, all of that is basically because of this huge amount of energy in the form of calories that is liberated as such. I hope you're getting what I am referring to. Then, coming to a factor wherein is there a condition that solid could directly go into a gaseous format? Yes. आजकाल करोना आल्यापासून सगळ्यांच्या घरी तो भीमसेन कापूर असतो किंवा नॉर्मल कापूर असतो. आपण घराघरामध्ये कापूर, मागच्या वर्षी तो खूप कापूर विकला गेला. When a solid is directly vaporizing into a gas, example is say camphor, kapur, camphor. It's called as sublimation. It's called as sublimation. Okay. And when the gas is directly transferred into a solid, this is called as deposition. Sorry, this is called as deposition. Okay, that sublimation requires 60 plus 80. 600 plus 80, 680 calories, and obviously it is going to give back. These are average figures, and understanding this could change a bit here and there with change in temperature, change in pressure in local conditions as well. But these are averaged out. 600 plus 80, 680 calories are going to be absorbed to. What is this? Absorbed. This should be, I'll have to check this. I am not able to confirm this. If this is absorbed plus absorbed, this also should be absorbed. If this is released and released, this also should be released. We will have to check. If you can check this for me, fine. Otherwise, I'll get back to this tomorrow. Now, let us go through what it has to say. Whenever water changes state, heat is exchanged between water and its surroundings. Okay, for example, heat is required to evaporate water. Meteorologists measure this heat involved when water changes state in units called as calories. 1 calorie is the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree centigrade. Okay, 1 gram of water, increase the temperature by 1 degree, that's going to be 1 calorie. So when 10 calories of heat are absorbed by 1 gram of water, the effective rise in the temperature could be 10 degrees centigrade as such. Okay, so this is something that you have to keep in mind also. थोडंसं heavy झालेलं आहे आज. I understand that it has got a bit heavy, but then in some time from now I will repost this. व्यवस्थित हे परत सगळं वाचा, ऐका, वाचायची गरज नाही, हे सगळं ऐका, समोर एक कागद घेऊन बसा, तुम्हाला काय काय कळतंय हे लिहून काढा, त्या प्रोसेसेस, ते चक्र काढायचं आपल्याला. हायड्रोलॉजिकल सायकल, द जिओग्राफिकल पार्ट ऑफ द हायड्रोलॉजिकल सायकल, द फिजिकल और केमिकल, व्हॉट एव्हर यू मे कॉल इट, त्याचं फिजिक्स काय, त्याचं केमिस्ट्री काय, की तिथे आपण मग वी कॉल इट एज अ लिक्विड, सॉलिड, इन इव्हॅपोरेशन, एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा, कम इन द मोर सायंटिफिक सेन्स as far as these aspects are concerned as such. Okay, so if you have a question, if you have a query of what we have done, I'm definitely sure that you will be having. याच्या आधी तुम्ही हे एवढ्या इंटेन्सली केलं नसेल तर you should have questions. And if you ask your questions right now, I'm ready to answer them if I can answer them as such. And secondly, if you have आता काहीच कळलेलं नाही, एकदमच गोंधळ झालेला आहे, डोंट वरी, थोड्या वेळाने मी हे पोस्ट करीन, ते व्यवस्थित परत काय ऐकायचं आणि तेव्हा तुम्हाला जे प्रश्न पडतील ते लिहून काढायचे. उद्या शनिवार आहे, येस, उद्या विल टेक अ लेक्चर at 9 o'clock again. आणि tomorrow first I will ask if you have any questions and queries. I'll check about that particular diagram also, and we'll get back tomorrow as such. Before I close, I'll just check your attendance. Akash Shirke, Akshay Hargude, Asawari Kale, Pratik Kokde, Pritam Ghosh, Rohit Gaikwad, Rishikesh Aglave, Sharayu Takavne, Shreya Chavan, Sumit Nanavre, Sunil Rathod, Tushar Kothole, Usha Wasave, Vandita Bhamre are the students present today. I'm going to stop the recording here.